called you? His voice was ice. The nanny shook her head, stepping back. It's personal. Esrin. Her name on his lips stopped her cold. He'd never used her first name. Not once in 8 months. Called. You. The dam broke. Her sister. Atlanta. A 7-year-old boy she hadn't held in 2 years. 30 days or he goes to foster care. She thought she was invisible. Just the help. She had no idea Shin Myung-ho had been watching her the entire time. And she had no idea what he was about to do. Before we continue, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join the Ebony and Pearl Stories family. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Shin Myung-ho didn't do compassion. He built his empire on calculated violence and strategic silence. Emotions were liabilities. Attachments were weapons your enemies used against you. So why was he already setting down his glass? He'd noticed things about her. Things he shouldn't have noticed. The way she hummed old gospel songs while folding his daughter's clothes. Melodies that sounded like her grandmother's voice trapped in her throat. Her fingers moving through Hannah and Yuna's hair in intricate patterns that looked like prayers. How she flinched when his security detail walked too close, then covered it with a smile that never reached her eyes. The fresh bruise on her wrist 3 weeks ago. Hidden under long sleeves. Never explained. She was beautiful in a way that unsettled him. Not the polished, surgical beauty of the women in his world, but something raw and unguarded. Natural hair framing her face in soft coils. Dark skin that glowed under the kitchen lights when she thought no one was watching. Eyes that held stories she'd never tell. Eyes that were now swollen with tears he could hear through walls built to keep out everything. Myung-ho's hand went to the Glock in his desk drawer. Then stopped. This wasn't that kind of threat. This was worse. He moved through the house like a ghost. Years of criminal tradecraft made him nearly silent. Past the twins' bedroom where night lights glowed soft pink. Down the service stairs. Through the corridor where her quarters sat at the end. Modest and separate from the main house. When he reached her door, the crying had stopped. Replaced by harsh, ragged breathing. Walk away. She's the help. This isn't your business. He knocked. The silence that followed was so complete the house itself seemed to hold its breath. Miss Aldridge. His voice came out rougher than intended. Open the door. I'm fine, Mr. Shin. Thick. Wet. Obviously not fine. I apologize for the disturbance. It won't happen again. Open. The door. A long pause. The lock clicked. When she appeared, his jaw tightened. Swollen eyes. Tear-streaked face. Gray sweater clutched around her shoulders like armor. But it was the phone gripped in her trembling hand that made his instincts flare. Who called you? She shook her head, stepping back into the doorframe. It's personal. It's nothing you need to. Esrin. Her name on his lips stopped her cold. He'd never used her first name. 8 months, and she'd been nothing but Ms. Aldridge. A title. A barrier. Now that barrier crumbled with a single word. Who called you? The dam broke. My sister. The words came out strangled, torn from somewhere deep. In Atlanta. She's been raising my son. I haven't seen him in 2 years. 2 years, Mr. Shin. I send money every month, I call every week, but tonight she said. Her voice cracked. Shattered. She said if I don't come get him in 30 days, she's putting him in foster care. She can't handle him anymore. He's acting out, he's angry, and he keeps asking. A sob escaped. He keeps asking why I left him. Myung-ho's world tilted on its axis. She had a son. How old? 7. She wiped her face with shaking hands, but the tears kept coming. His name is Isaiah. I came to Korea because the pay was 10 times what I could make back home. I thought I could save enough to bring him here. Give him a real life. But the visa complications, the legal fees, the lawyers who keep taking my money and delivering nothing. Her voice broke completely. It's taking too long. And now I'm going to lose him. Why didn't you tell me? Her laugh was bitter. Hollow. Broken. Tell you. She looked at him like he'd spoken another language. Mr. Shin, you barely acknowledge I exist. I'm the help. I take care of your daughters, I keep my head down, I stay invisible. Her eyes met his, red-rimmed and raw. That's the job. Something in her words cut through him like a blade. She thought she was invisible. You think I don't see you? His voice dropped to something dangerous. Intimate. I know you buy fresh flowers from the market on Tuesdays and put them in the girls' room because their mother used to do the same thing. I know you're teaching them Korean folk songs. Songs my wife sang before she died. Songs I never asked you to learn. Esrin's eyes went wide. I know you stay up past midnight reading child psychology books so you can handle Hannah's tantrums. I know you send 80% of your salary home. I know you eat one meal a day to save money because you think no one notices when you skip lunch. He stepped closer. I know your immigration lawyer is overcharging you. And I know someone hurt you before you came here, because you flinch at raised voices and lock your door 3 times every night. How? Because I pay attention to the people in my house. His eyes held hers, especially the ones protecting what I love most. Silence stretched between them, heavy, charged, trembling. 30 days, he said quietly. That's your deadline? She nodded. Broken. Defeated. Then we have time. Time for what? The words came out desperate. Mr. Shin, I can't afford to fly home and lose this job. The visa transfer could take 6 months, and that's if everything goes perfectly. Do you trust me? The question hung in the air like smoke. I don't know, she whispered. Something shifted in his expression. Not anger. Respect. Smart woman. A dark smile curved his mouth. But I'm going to fix this anyway. This woman crossed an ocean, works 18-hour days, eats 1 meal to save money, and sends everything home to give her son a future, and the system is still trying to tear them apart. If you believe mothers like Esrin deserve to be reunited with their children, hit subscribe and drop a comment saying, "Bring Isaiah home." Only people who side with broken systems and greedy lawyers won't. Comment what time you're watching this. I want to see how far this story travels. Because what Myung-ho does next, it's going to change everything. The envelope was waiting when Esrin woke. Cream-colored. Expensive. Slipped under her door sometime before dawn. Her hands trembled as she opened it, still swollen-eyed from a night of fitful sleep. Inside, a first-class ticket to Atlanta, 2 weeks paid leave, signed and stamped by his household manager, and a business card for an immigration attorney in Seoul, one of the best in the country. On the back, sharp handwriting in black ink. Already paid. Already briefed. Bring Isaiah home. Listen. Esrin dropped the card twice before she could hold it steady. She found him in his study 3 hours later. He was on the phone, speaking rapid Korean. Something about shipments, schedules, the clipped language of a man who moved millions with single sentences. When he saw her in the doorway, he held up one finger. Wait. She waited. Heart pounding. Envelope clutched against her chest. He ended the call and set the phone down. His eyes found hers immediately. Dark, unreadable, patient. I can't accept this, she said, stepping forward. She placed the envelope on his desk like it might burn her. It's too much. The ticket alone must have cost. You can. And you will. Mr. Shin. Myung-ho. The words stopped her cold. What? My name. He leaned back in his chair, watching her with an intensity that made her skin warm. Use it. The intimacy of that request stole her breath. 8 months of Mr. Shin. 8 months of careful distance, professional boundaries, the safety of formality. Now he was asking her to cross a line she wasn't sure she could uncross. Why are you doing this? She whispered. He stood, moved around the desk with that predatory grace she'd noticed from the beginning. The way he occupied space like he owned it, because he did. When he stopped in front of her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar and smoke and something expensive. His eyes were intense. Because my daughters love you. She blinked. Because you sing them to sleep when they have nightmares about their mother. Because you learn songs in a language you don't speak just to comfort them. Because you're the first person in this house who isn't afraid of me. Her throat tightened. And because no child should spend another day thinking his mother abandoned him. The tears came before she could stop them. Silent. Streaming. I don't know how to thank you, she managed. Bring him home safe, Myung-ho said quietly. That's enough. She nodded. Once. Twice. Then turned before she could say something foolish. Before she could tell him that in 8 months of working in his home, this was the first time she'd felt like someone actually saw her. At the door, she stopped. Myung-ho. His name felt foreign on her tongue. Dangerous. Right. She didn't turn around. Thank you. 14 days later. Incheon International Airport. 6:47 p.m. Esrin walked through the arrival gate with her heart in her throat and her son's hand gripped tight in hers. Isaiah was small for 7. Wary. His eyes held the same guarded strength as his mother's, but beneath it, anger. The kind that came from being left behind. From 2 years of asking why and never getting an answer that made sense. He'd barely spoken on the flight. 14 hours of silence, his face pressed to the window, watching clouds pass like he was looking for something he'd lost. Now he walked beside her through the terminal, a single backpack on his shoulders, everything he owned in the world. I'm going to make this right, she thought. I'm going to give you everything. Then she saw him. Shin Myung-ho stood near the exit, hands in his pockets, watching the arrivals board. No security detail. No entourage. Just him, expensive suit, sharp jaw, tattoos peeking above his collar. He'd come himself. Esrin's security briefings had made one thing clear. Myung-ho never picked anyone up from the airport. Ever. He sent drivers, assistants, armed guards. But he never came personally. Until now. Isaiah shrank behind her the moment he saw him. The tattooed Korean man in the dark suit. The stillness that radiated danger even when he wasn't moving. Everything about Myung-ho screamed power, the kind that made grown men step aside. But Myung-ho didn't approach Esrin first. He crouched down. Right there in the middle of the terminal, this man who commanded half of Seoul's underworld lowered himself to a 7-year-old's eye level. Your mother talks about you all the time, he said. Perfect English. Gentle but direct. She's very proud of you. Isaiah's jaw tightened. She left me. The words were small. Accusing. A wound dressed up as a statement. Myung-ho didn't flinch. She did, he agreed. No sugarcoating. No empty comfort. Because she loves you enough to sacrifice being with you so you could have a better future. That's the hardest kind of love there is. Isaiah's lip trembled. His fists clenched at his sides. But she's back now, Myung-ho continued. And so are you. And in my house. He extended his hand, palm up, an offering. We protect our people. A pause. Deal. Isaiah stared at the outstretched hand. This stranger. This powerful, terrifying man kneeling on an airport floor, offering him something no one else ever had. Protection. Slowly, carefully, Isaiah reached out. His small fingers wrapped around Myung-ho's. Deal. A 7-year-old boy. Abandoned. Angry. Scared. And a mafia boss who just made him a promise. 3 weeks changed everything. Isaiah's laughter echoed through the house now. A sound Esrin had almost forgotten existed. He chased Hannah and Yuna through the garden, teaching them American basketball moves while they taught him Korean phrases that made him giggle at his own terrible pronunciation. Appa. Sarangi. Babwa. The twins adored him. Called him their brother. Fought over who got to sit next to him at meals. And Isaiah, angry, guarded, wounded Isaiah, was slowly becoming a boy again. His visa was temporary. 90 days while the paperwork processed, while lawyers filed motions and immigration officials reviewed documents. 90 days of borrowed time. But watching him now, sun on his face, joy in his voice, Esrin let herself believe it might actually work. She should have known better. The security chief arrived at 9 p.m. Park Jun-seo was a former military man. Scarred, silent, loyal to Myung-ho since their army days. He never came to the house unless something was wrong. Esrin was in the kitchen preparing tea when she heard the study door close. Heard the low murmur of voices through the wall. She moved closer. Pretended to organize the tea set. Listened. Encrypted message. Intercepted an hour ago. Jun-seo's voice was flat. Professional. The Kuroda Gumi. They've identified everyone in your household. A pause. Including the woman and the boy. Esrin's blood went cold. Read it. Myung-ho's voice. Hard as iron. Paper rustling. Then Jun-seo, reciting words that made her world tilt. The nanny and her son leave Korea in 48 hours. Or they disappear. Silence. Esrin's hands gripped the counter. Her vision blurred. Everything she'd built, everything she'd sacrificed, threatened by men who didn't even know her name. 48 hours. She was supposed to run. Pack her bags, grab Isaiah, disappear into another country, another life, another 2 years of hiding. She was so tired of running. The study door opened before she realized she was moving. Myung-ho and Jun-seo looked up. The security chief's hand went to his weapon on instinct, then dropped when he saw her. But it was Myung-ho's face that stopped her. The careful blankness. The control masking something volcanic beneath. "You heard," he said. "Not a question." "Yes. Then you understand. I'll arrange transport tonight. New identities. Safe house in." "No." The word cut through the room like a blade. Juneseo's eyebrows rose. Myung-ho went very still. "No." His voice was quiet. Dangerous. "I'm not running." Esrin stepped into the study, closing the door behind her. "Neither is Isaiah." "Esrin. I spent 2 years running from my ex in Atlanta." The words came out steady, but her hands were shaking. 2 years of new addresses, burner phones, jumping at shadows. "I moved across the world to escape him. I left my son behind to keep him safe from a man who would have used him to hurt me." She met Myung-ho's eyes. "I'm done running. This isn't your ex-boyfriend." Myung-ho's voice went cold, clinical. "This is the Yakuza. Japanese organized crime with reach across 3 continents. They will torture you for information you don't have, and they will kill Isaiah just to send me a message. Then stop them." The simplicity of her demand hit him like a physical blow. "You don't understand what you're asking." "I understand perfectly." She moved closer, fearless in a way that made his pulse spike. "You're Shin Myung-ho. Half of Seoul's underworld is terrified of your name. You've built an empire on making problems disappear." Her eyes held his, dark, fierce, unbreaking. "So make this problem disappear." Juneseo shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't how people spoke to his boss. This wasn't how anyone spoke to Shin Myung-ho. But Myung-ho didn't look away from her. "If I do this," he said slowly, "if I escalate this conflict, people will die." Esrin didn't flinch. "Then let them be the right people." The darkness in her voice matched his own. This woman, this mother who hummed gospel songs and braided hair like prayers, had steel running through her spine, had survived things that would have broken others, had crossed oceans and endured years of loneliness and still stood here, refusing to bend. She wasn't asking him to protect her. She was asking him to unleash the monster. Myung-ho looked at her for a long moment. Then at Juneseo. "Call the lieutenants," he said quietly. "All of them." Juneseo nodded once and left the room. When they were alone, Myung-ho turned back to Esrin. His expression was unreadable, but something burned behind his eyes. "You should know what you've just asked me to do." "I know exactly what I've asked." She held his gaze. "I'm not afraid of your violence, Myung-ho. I'm afraid of losing my son again." "My son." The words hung between them. "Then stay close," he said. "And pray I finish this before they realize what's coming." The Yakuza threatened a mother and her child. Gave them 48 hours to run or die. They picked the wrong house. If you don't stand with cowards who threaten children, hit subscribe and comment, "Wrong house." Only people who side with bullies and criminals scroll past this. Drop the time you're watching. Let's show them how far a mother's strength can reach. Because what happens in the next 72 hours? Seoul's underworld will never be the same. What happened in the next 72 hours would become legend in Seoul's underworld. Shin Myung-ho didn't respond to the threat. He erased it. 3 of the Kurodagumi's lieutenants vanished in a single night. No bodies. No traces. Just empty apartments and cold meals left on tables. Chopsticks still resting on bowls, as if their owners had stepped out for a moment and never returned. 2 safe houses burned to the ground before dawn. The fires were precise, surgical, destroying everything inside while leaving neighboring buildings untouched. Firefighters found nothing but ash and melted steel. Bank accounts frozen. Supply lines severed. Informants went silent or switched sides. And the man who had ordered the threat against Esrin and Isaiah, a mid-level boss named Tanaka who thought targeting a nanny would be easy leverage, found himself kneeling on the concrete floor of an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Incheon. His hands were bound. His face was bloody. Myung-ho stood over him, jacket removed, sleeves rolled to his elbows, knuckles split and raw. "You threatened a woman in my house," Myung-ho said quietly. "A mother. A child." Tanaka's voice came out broken, desperate. "It was business. Just business. I didn't know she meant anything to you." "She lives under my roof." Myung-ho crouched down, bringing his face close. "That makes her mine to protect. That makes her son mine to keep safe. You should have known better." "Please," Tanaka's eyes were wild. searching for mercy he wouldn't find. I have a family. So does she. The warehouse went silent. When Myung-ho's men dragged Tanaka away, his screams echoed off the walls long after he disappeared into the darkness. 4 a.m. The house was dark when Myung-ho returned. He moved through the back entrance, avoiding the main halls where the children slept. His suit jacket was gone, lost somewhere between the warehouse and the car. His white shirt was rumpled, stained at the cuffs. His knuckles were split open, dried blood cracking with every movement. Exhaustion clung to him like smoke. Violence radiated from his skin. He needed whiskey. A shower. 12 hours of sleep he wouldn't get. What he found was Esrin. She was sitting in the dark living room, curled into the corner of the couch, waiting. The moment he appeared in the doorway, she stood. Is it done? Her voice was quiet. Steady. It's done. He moved to the bar cart, poured whiskey with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. They won't touch you again. No one will. She crossed the room toward him. You're hurt. I'm fine. Myung-ho. Her voice gentled, and something in his chest cracked at the sound of his name on her lips. Let me see. She reached for his damaged hands. He caught her wrists. Not hard, but firm enough to stop her. His grip was careful, controlled, even as everything inside him threatened to shatter. Don't. Why? His eyes met hers, and the hunger there stole her breath. Raw. Desperate. Barely contained. Because if you touch me right now, he said hoarsely, I won't be able to stop myself from. He cut himself off. Jaw clenched. Fighting for control he was rapidly losing. From what? She whispered. The air between them crackled. From showing you exactly how deeply you've gotten under my skin. Esrin's heart slammed against her ribs. She should step back. Should remember that this man had just spent 3 days dismantling a criminal organization. Should remember the blood on his hands, the violence in his past, the danger that followed him like a shadow. But she'd spent her whole life stepping back. Being careful. Being invisible. She was done being invisible. Maybe I want you to, she said softly. His control shattered. Myung-ho pulled her against him, one hand sliding into her hair, the other wrapping around her waist as his mouth found hers. The kiss was desperate and claiming and inevitable. Like they'd been drowning and finally found air. She kissed him back like she'd been starving for this. Her hands fisted in his blood-stained shirt, pulling him closer, erasing every inch of distance between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. I don't do relationships, he said hoarsely. I don't do soft. Everything I touch ends in violence. I'm not afraid of your violence. Her hands cupped his face, thumbs brushing his jaw. I'm afraid of not having you at all. Esrin. I love you. The words came out fierce, unashamed. I know that's insane. I know your world is dangerous. But I've been drowning for years, and you're the first person who taught me how to breathe again. His grip on her tightened. I'll destroy anyone who tries to hurt you. The promise was a vow, low and absolute. You and Isaiah, you're mine now. Do you understand? Mine to protect. Mine to keep. Yes, she breathed. He kissed her again. Slower this time. Reverent. I love you too, he whispered against her lips. God help us both. He burned down safe houses. Made men vanish. Brought a criminal empire to its knees. All for her. Drop the time you're watching. Let's see how far this story reaches. Because the storm is over. But what comes next? That's where everything changes. Morning light spilled through the windows, soft and golden. Isaiah padded down the stairs in his pajamas, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He'd heard voices last night, low murmurs, movement, but hadn't investigated. He was learning that in this house, some things were better left alone. But when he reached the living room, he stopped. His mother was asleep on the couch. Her head rested on Myung-ho's chest, her body curled against his like she belonged there. His arm wrapped around her even in sleep, protective, possessive, tender. His suit jacket was draped over her like a blanket. Isaiah stood in the doorway, watching them breathe, watching the way Myung-ho's hand rested on her shoulder, watching the peace on his mother's face, something he hadn't seen in years, maybe ever. Slowly, carefully, he crossed the room. He reached down and adjusted the jacket, tucking it higher around her shoulders so she wouldn't get cold. His small fingers smoothed the fabric. Thank you, he whispered. For bringing her back to me. Myung-ho's eyes opened. Dark. Alert. Instantly awake. The instincts of a man who'd survived by never fully sleeping. But when he saw Isaiah standing there, those instincts softened. The boy's eyes were wet. His jaw was tight, like he was trying to be brave. Myung-ho held his gaze for a long moment. Man to man. Promise to promise. Always, he said quietly. Isaiah nodded once. Then retreated to the kitchen, leaving them alone. But something had shifted. Something had sealed. A family wasn't just blood. Sometimes it was a choice. 3 years later. The house was nothing like the estate. No reinforced walls. No security stations. No soundproofed rooms designed to contain screams. This was a home in the suburbs. Actual suburbs, with actual neighbors. A yard where children played. A garden where flowers grew. A street where people walked dogs and waved at each other and didn't know or care that the man at number 47 used to run half of Seoul's underworld. Esrin Shin stood at the kitchen window, coffee warming her hands, watching through the glass. Isaiah was 10 now. Taller. Stronger. Fluent in Korean with an accent that made his teachers smile. He was in the backyard teaching Hannah and Yuna American basketball. Demonstrating crossovers and layups while the girls shrieked with laughter and tried to steal the ball. 3 children who'd become siblings. Not by blood. By choice. Isaiah caught Yuna when she tripped, steadied her, then challenged her to try again. Patient. Protective. The anger that had lived in his eyes for so long was gone, replaced by something settled. Something whole. Esrin's throat tightened. She'd crossed an ocean to give him a better life. Spent 2 years apart, sending money, making promises, praying he'd forgive her. Now he was home. Now they all were. Arms wrapped around her from behind. Myung-ho. Fresh from his morning coffee, still warm from sleep. He pressed a kiss to the curve of her neck, and she leaned back into his chest, into the solidity of him, the certainty. Happy? He murmured against her skin. She watched their children through the window. Watched Isaiah spin the basketball on his finger while Hannah and Yuna applauded. Watched the sunlight catch their laughter, turn it golden. Completely, she whispered. He'd chosen this. The man who'd built an empire on violence and silence had walked away from the throne. Not because he was weak, but because he'd found something stronger than power. Family. He still had enemies. Still had scars. Still woke some nights with his hands reaching for weapons that weren't there. But when he looked at Esrin, this woman who'd refused to run, who'd matched his darkness with her own, who'd loved him when she had every reason not to, he knew he'd made the right choice. She wasn't afraid of his past. She was his future. In the yard, Isaiah scored a basket and threw his arms up in victory. Hannah tackled him around the waist while Yuna jumped on his back, and all 3 of them tumbled into the grass, laughing. Esrin smiled. Some silences weren't empty. Some were full of everything that mattered. A mother who refused to give up. A boy who learned to trust again. A man who chose love over power. This is what family looks like when you fight for it. If you believe every child deserves to come home, if you refuse to side with the systems and people who tear families apart, hit subscribe and comment, family is a choice. Only people with cold hearts scroll past a story like this. Drop the time you're watching. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because some silences? They're full of everything that matters.